Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another thunderous episode of Hammer Away on the Go Game Go channel. Prepare yourselves tonight for a chat with bassist Timothy Gaines. So here we go. Let us see. Are we there? Where are we? We are right
Hey,
here. How's it going, man?
what's up?
Oh, plenty, plenty. We've had a chance to talk recently, but it was a while between. So lots of things are happening, and we have lots of cool stuff we're going to talk about tonight. I hope you think the same.
I agree. Absolutely.
So what do we have in the background there?
In the background. Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, it's can you see? I don't know
Yeah,
what's
we
going
can.
on the camera here, but
Yeah, I know it's weird, right?
brown bass. It's a mutt bass.
Yeah.
It's a Stingray neck,
Sweet.
79 fretless neck, and it's
Mm.
a 70s, late 70s jazz body that I've been playing that thing forever. Used to have a
Wow.
73 jazz neck on it, fretted, and then that neck busted. And I got I got a friend of mine who used to work for Music Man
Oh,
in GNL, and he had that neck. It was a reject, and we traded for I think a camera tripod years and years ago. So I got the neck. We put it on this jazz body, and I've been playing fretless since the early '90s. Still has the original strings that I put on there in like '93
are you
or
kidding?
'94. Yeah, so I don't change the strings. And then the other, let's see, which way am I going here?
Yeah,
Uh,
there you go.
the other, that's a new jazz bass that I've been playing.
Oh, wow.
I like Fender jazz basses.
Yeah,
The P
oddly
bass,
enough.
that's my Telecaster in the corner over there.
Yes.
And then if you go down, I can't see. I got a P bass. You can't see them. P bass
Oh,
and
there you go.
a Stingray. The Stingray I've had
Yeah.
since I was a kid. That was the first bass I ever
Really?
bought brand new. So
Really? Oh,
I've had that
man.
since the '78. I've had it since I think I bought it in '79.
Wow. Well, that
Anyways,
makes me happy that I didn't ask that question in the lightning round. Oftentimes I do. I'm like, what's the first instrument you bought and do you still have it? So, so
that's like the third, I think third or fourth that I still have, but that I got when I was a kid.
wow.
My first bass was an Orlando, which is Japanese P bass copy, and I got that in. I got that for my 14th birthday from my mom,
Wow.
and then I got rid of that, and I got one of those Ibanez Rickenbacker lawsuit
Uh,
copies,
mm-hmm.
and I got rid of that, and I had a '65 jazz bass, which at the time
Mm.
that I had it was, was the mid '70s, late '70s,
Right.
and I don't know, it was only 10 years old at the time, so it wasn't like that. It was like
That's
a Mexican jazz bass, here from the '80s or '90s. It's not
yeah.
worth that much, but so I traded that in on a BC Rich, and I think it was the Son of Rich, which was a Japanese BC Rich. Those came out in like the early '80s, late '70s, and then
Wow,
from there I bought the Stingray. So, and
man.
the Stingray I still have. The others I don't.
Wow. That is a great little walk. That's amazing. Oh, hey, there you go. Rich G says, Tim.
Rich G, Rich Gardner.
Yeah.
Hey, Rich, what's
Hey, I
up?
like how you put that together. That's pretty good. I'm like,
Rich G.
we start every show with a lightning round. So these are some are some are cool little questions. They're all cool little questions, but some of them are a little quirky.
Okay,
But we'll start with this one. Would you have rather written Back in Black or Staying Alive?
staying alive.
And why? I mean, we kind of know why to a certain
So,
extent, but
well, I like that era of music. So,
yeah.
uh, I was as a bass player, I was into especially starting out as a kid. That's
Hmm.
right around the time that disco was, uh, you know, it was big. And
Yeah.
as a bass player, I mean, that's what I was into at the time.
Well, and let's face it, the bass players they were the ones that got to move around.
Yeah.
The only the only people that could move around more were the vocalists, really. I mean,
Yeah.
Guitar players were kind of stuck in that chicka chicka thing, and
Yeah.
drummers are definitely just solid. Keep it.
Back in Black was cool. I mean, that was like the first, maybe the second AC/DC album I ever owned. And,
Same here.
I dug it. And the first one was Dirty Deeds. And went from there to Back in Black. So
skipped right over Highway to Hell.
yeah, skipped over everything else.
So speaking of albums, what was your first album? Vinyl.
First
or
vinyl
whatever.
that I ever bought was Partridge Family Up to Date. It was like
Shut your mouth.
1971 or 70, somewhere in there. I still have it.
Yeah, I've got the first album back here.
Yeah. So and I have two older sisters, and they have a huge library of music. So I grew up listening to everything, and as well as my parents. But as a 9-year-old, 9-year-old kid, 10-year-old kid, I bought Partridge Family because that's what was on TV at the time.
Yeah, and it was great harmonies, and those songs were played by brilliant musicians. It's all of these movies that we're getting to watch now about the documentaries of these people that actually played all this music.
Yeah, the Wrecking Crew. Gosh, all the great players. I mean, my favorite bass player at the time was Danny Partridge, who wasn't Danny Partridge on the record, but I mean, who knew? Max Bennett on bass. I mean, is one of the great jazz players. Joe Osborne, all these guys that were behind the scenes. Larry Knechtel, and all these guys played that were, who knew that it wasn't Danny.
Yeah.
On his Ovation bass.
What did he say? You pluck it, you don't strum it.
Mm-hmm.
Is that?
So, anyways, that was it. And then, early on, it was Elton John from like 72, 73 on. It was like all through the 70s. I was into Elton John, and his bass player was Dee Murray. And that's how I got into playing bass, was because I listened to his rhythm section.
Absolutely. Manuel Martinez is here. Wash hands.
What's up?
I remember, I think I'll say it now and again. Kiss Alive was my first record, but my parents, my mother bought records. We were really a big musical family. So we dug it all. All right. Number 3, science fiction or fantasy?
Probably fantasy.
Yeah. Do you read much?
I do. Mostly Christian literature, but I do read. I got it. You can't see everything here, but I mean, I got my library behind me. I got stacks of books right here next to me. This is like what I've been working on. It's like I read. I go to bed reading. I wake up in the morning reading. So that's what I do right now.
Yeah, it keeps the mind expanded, right?
Yeah.
Keeps it fresh. Now, here's one for you. If you were a pro wrestler, what would your intro song be?
That's an interesting question. So, pro wrestler.
Because, anybody can be a pro wrestler.
Yeah, especially somebody as large as I am.
You are tall and wiry. You could
Unskinny Bop. Yeah, who knows? Yeah, Unskinny Bop from.
Oh man! And the last lightning round question tonight: what album do you appreciate more now than when it was released? If you have a couple, that's fine. I'm not going to tie you down to one. If a couple of them come to mind.
There's a lot of them, but I still say one of my top favorites is "Goodbye Yellow Brick Road" from Elton John,
Mm,
73. That
yeah.
album is timeless.
Hmm.
And as I go back and play songs that I used to play when I was a kid, uh,
Mm,
that's one that comes up frequently. And there's some songs on there that are pretty hard to
yeah.
master on the bass. So
Yeah. 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 There are some brilliant songs on there. I have a friend of mine, and we'll get into this a little bit later with you. Um, but and I'll say this ahead of time, knowing what I'll talk to you about. But I have a friend of mine that has Dogs of Society as a Elton John tribute band here in
hmm,
town, and they do Grace Seal. They do, of course, they have the Funeral for a Friend, and um, the subsequent song, "Love
yeah,
Lies Bleeding."
Love
It's
Lies
just
Bleeding.
such a great record. Yeah, I never thought about that one when I was a kid. I never owned it when I was a kid.
Yeah, well, you go
Yeah.
back and listen to all the stuff that
Hmm.
Dee Murray played. Dee and Nigel Olsen, drummer. I mean,
Hmm.
what an excellent rhythm section those guys
Oh,
were, and what a monster player
yeah, they
Dee was.
locked in.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah. And further on from Manuel, we have my favorite bass player. Great playing style. And for Blake, we may talk about this a little bit.
Okay, now I'm seeing these guys coming up here. So
Yeah.
there we
Yeah.
go. Manuel,
There, there it is.
what's up, brother?
Yeah. Yeah. A great playing style. You are right, my friend. You are right. Well, now we'll get started. We um, just I guess I'll just ask how's life out there in Arizona today? How's the weather out there? Is it hot?
It's flipping hot. In fact, we're having a heat wave
Oh
warning or
yeah,
whatever they call it in effect.
yeah.
I lived in the South. We had tornado warnings and watches, and out here we
Yep.
have
Your
heat
heat advisory.
heat advisor. Yeah, it's hot
That's
today,
it.
and it's humid because we just had a monsoon come through last week, so everything's still wet, and with that
Oh
heat,
wow.
it's pretty thick out there today. So,
Yeah,
uh, but yeah, life is grand in Phoenix, Arizona.
that's very good. I'm glad to hear it. I'm glad to hear it. Um, and then let's see here. I want to jump back. The only things that I really want to touch on for kind of a historic moment is just to kind of talk to you, because this is, Hammer Away, which is music and the human experience. So it's really about you. And so the question that I want to ask you is, um, I want to know about Tim Gaines and where you were when you started in your early band career, because you've been playing now for 45 years, I think, is kind of what it says on your website. I do believe is where I got that.
Yeah.
And at this point, we enter into things with a certain understanding that we didn't have early on. So I'm just kind of wondering what your feelings were after joining Stormer and preparing to record the demos. Just kind of where were you at that time?
Yeah, I mean, when I joined Stormer, it was like just dream excitement because they were a
Mm,
huge band. They were a big deal in LA when I joined, and they've been around, gosh, mid 70s. I mean,
yeah.
they played shows back to back with Van Halen and
Mm,
I think Motley played one of their very first shows with Stormer, in
wow.
'81 or whenever that was. But so I joined the band, and I came out of a couple other bands that I had been in. One was an original band, and the other band was like a cover band. And
What were the
we
names of those two?
uh, one of the bands was called Afton Kid. That was an original
Okay.
band it was like a power pop kind of. It wasn't a trio, but two guitar players, drummer, bass player, and a singer. So um, we we played Gazaris, and that's when I started getting
Yeah.
my foot in the door, playing
Yeah.
Hollywood and playing the Starwood and places like that. And then after that, I joined up with a high school friend of mine, Greg Boss, in a
Hmm.
band called White Lace. and it was just a
Ah,
cover band. We played, at the high schools and played backyard parties and stuff like that.
yeah.
And that's what led up to me joining Stormer. They hired White Lace to play one of their own parties. They had this huge warehouse that they rehearsed in, and they'd hire other bands to come play, their parties on the weekends. So we just happened to be one of the bands that played. And their bass player at the time, Jeremy Masana, was
Yeah.
about ready to leave the band, so they were looking for a bass player. And I was young; I was still in high school, and
Wow.
they asked me to audition. I came down and I knew all the songs. I learned everything, and I think they were impressed because I learned more than what I was supposed to.
Yeah, that's always a plus.
So we rehearsed for a while and started playing shows, and it was just an excitement for me. It was, because here I am, this high school kid playing with these guys that are, 5, 7 years older than me.
Yeah,
And
veteran players by then.
yeah. And
Yeah.
it wasn't my first experience in the studio, but I mean, we had signed a deal with an independent label,
Hmm.
and they took us into the studio and we recorded an album. And what we ended up doing was we did Christmas single first that was going to
Yeah.
be released to Album Rock Radio, and that's what we did. So we had a 45, remember those, plastic, of these 2 Christmas songs, and they're original songs, and they got some airplay. And so this was being released. That was like December of 81.
Okay, I was gonna say, yeah.
Then that following year, we were waiting for the album to be finished, and it ended up the record label ended up going under,
Yeah.
and so all this stuff ended up being recorded but never released. So we got a single out of it, and
And nobody still to this day knows where those are, huh?
well, yeah, there was excuse me, there was about 500 printed up, and
Oh, okay.
every once in a while you see them on eBay, and I've got a couple. I got one hanging on my wall over here, but
Sweet.
uh, every now and then you'll see something on eBay where somebody's got one, and I don't know who, how they ended up with whoever they did, but
Yeah.
somebody came in and stole a box of them, and so whatever was given out or sent out to radio stations at the time,
Yeah.
there was the additional records were stolen, and so those are still out there somewhere. Somebody's either hanging on to them or have given them up. Who knows? But
Yeah.
we're talking like
Wow.
1980, 81. So how many years ago was that? It's 40 years.
Yeah, 40. Yeah.
It's been a while. So somewhere those singles are out there, and
That's
they might be
crazy.
worth some money someday. Who knows?
Yeah, I mean, now, and thank you so much, Oak City Gamers. Look at that. I freaking love this Viking, dude.
Oh, well,
Somebody's throwing me some love
here,
there.
I
That's
make your
nice.
screen bigger because I can't. Let's see here. I don't want to touch it
Oh,
because I'll mess something up.
I got you. I got
There,
you. Yeah.
I,
So then you're out on you're at the Sunset Strip. You're doing all this, and then and real quick here too about as far as Stormer is concerned, have there been any more discussions about possible Stormer reunion, and who would be in the band in the lineup, because there were
yeah,
quite a few people in and out.
yeah. Yeah, I haven't talked to any of the guys in a while as
Okay,
far as the reunion goes. We had done some talking about it maybe 3 or 4 years ago,
gotcha.
and I don't know if it'll ever happen or not. I
Yeah.
know I keep in touch with the drummer Steve, and
Hmm.
he's pretty much the only one I really keep in contact with at the moment.
Gotcha.
But yeah, who knows? I mean,
Yeah.
might happen, might not.
Might not. That's what time is all about, right? You just
Yeah,
never know. You just leave it as a mystery.
yeah,
And then because I guess you also collaborated with Donnie Simmons and Tom Hardy in between times with
yeah.
Striper. Yeah.
Yeah, so Donnie and I have done some projects, some writing and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
We mainly just hung out, and he's God, I love the guy. He's probably one of
Mm.
the best guitar players. Just
Wow.
just a sweet, tasty guitar player. I mean, you don't see a lot of these guys that play like him anymore. There's
Yeah.
another guy, Danny Johnson from Rick Derringer's band, and Rod Stewart.
Mm.
Uh, uh, who else? You know who else plays real sweet like that is Aldo Nova. he's
Yeah.
he's just one sweet, tasty guitar player.
Yeah, no doubt.
Yeah.
No doubt. Yeah, I'm so eager to talk to you about that. That's my highlight question. One of my highlight questions of the show today is to talk to you a little bit about that in a little bit.
Yeah.
And then
Going back to Stormer really quick.
yeah.
With Donnie, and then also Tom. You mentioned Tom Hardy.
Yeah.
We had started a band, or I had played in a band with him in the early '90s called No Stranger, and
Oh, okay.
that was another great band that nobody ever heard. And there's demos floating around with that too that need to see the light of day, because we had some.
Yeah.
It was like the '90s, so we were playing Journey kind of music, but I mean, this was '90s when grunge was, starting to take off and be big. So,
Yeah.
anyways, just another little side note.
Yeah, and I wonder if that's something that's going to come up a little bit later. I do have this guy's from Stormer, Oak City Gamer says. He goes, I know a guy.
Yeah, I know a guy.
Yeah. And then what else do we have here? We want more jazz music from the magic of your fingers on your bass. Breakfast at Timothy's Volume 2, they're calling for.
It will be a freeform jazz ensemble.
Yeah.
I would love to if I ever found the right players to work with, but
well, looks like we need to keep in touch with Oak City Gamers, because they say that he's got the person that he knows has a bunch of Stormer stuff.
Oh, that's great. Yeah, hook me up.
Yeah, he's a music local. He's German. His name is Herschel.
Herschel. Nine.
Kind of. We have ways of making you give us Stormer stuff.
I'm full-blooded German, but I don't know anything other than Nine and Schnell.
Yeah, and Schnell. Kommen Sie hier?
Yeah.
That's like knowing Mexican. They know Spanish. I say taco, burrito.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's great. Yeah, he calls him Hesh. Has a giant LP and 45 collection.
Excellent.
So, yeah, Born Distracted is Breakfast at Timothy's. Yeah, liking it. Why do I have to be at work now? He says. They'd rather be here in complete.
Well, good for you. You're working.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Now, what's the exact pronunciation of your true last name?
Well, the American version is Hagelgans.
Hagelgans.
Hagelgans is.
That's, yeah.
German. It means, I think, ice goose.
Which, if you're talking about liquor, that's not bad.
Yeah. So don't ask me how it came about, because we traced our family lineage back to the 1470s, but there's different spellings of it. Some are spelled with a Z, some are spelled with a TZ, some are spelled with an S, GANS.
Holy cow.
And my uncle, actually my dad's uncle, was the first one to go with Gaines. He was a radio announcer. And he went by Gaines. And then my dad's brother was a nightclub performer. He played jazz, and he went by Ronnie Gaines. So
wow.
Gaines was a stage name that from my dad's side, that his uncle and my uncle ended up using.
And
I went with Gaines just for the heck of it. I wasn't going to
Yeah.
go by Gaines, but I just thought about it one day and went by Tim Gaines. And
Yeah.
well, my brother goes by Gaines, Steve Gaines. So, uh,
They started a
it's-
trend, man.
yeah. So,
And
I
then,
mean, who would go by Hagel Gaines? I mean, that's like impossible to
well,
say.
who knows? I mean,
I can't even
try
get
it.
people to spell Gaines correctly, and let alone Hagel Gaines.
See, it's all about the spelling.
Yeah.
I don't know how many times I get called steward.
Stewart, yeah, with a D.
I'm like, the only stewards I know are in a church, on a plane, in a boat. I don't know. I don't know anybody with that name. Never seen it. Anybody with that name. What is this one? Does Tim still do the Elton John covers?
Oh yeah. I haven't lately. That was another thing leading up to Elton John was, or with me rehearsing Elton John was Kenny Metcalf, Elton, the early years band was.
Yeah.
He's a great Elton impersonator cover band, and he was the keyboard player for Stryper way back when.
Wow.
One of our live keyboard players, and so he does an Elton John cover. He has for years, and he's been on the Access TV network. You know, these guys that do the cover bands, and
Yeah.
so he's. I've flown out and done gigs when their bass player can't make it, and I put on a wig and my '60s glasses, and I wear the '70s elevator shoes and my disco pants and all that stuff.
So you're even taller than you already are.
Yeah.
Your stature though is perfect for that kind of a band. It's great.
Yeah, well, it's great. It's great stuff to play. So
Yeah.
if he ever asked me to do it again, I know they're out playing right now, which since everything's.
And what do they call that? What do they call that band?
Elton, the early years. Kenny Metcalf as Elton, and then the early years band. So they do all the early Elton John stuff up until I think Rock of the Westies or whenever that band changed. Yeah.
Yeah. Wow. Let's see here. Well, we're talking about getting to Stryper. Speaking of Stryper, I just was going to ask you the same, as about that Stormer period when you jumped in and were excited and thrilled about jumping into that. Just tell us how you felt. Same kind of thing. How did you feel when you teamed up with the other members in Rock's Regime?
Yeah, so this was like a big change in my life because as I had been in Stormer, I hadn't been. I don't know. I had just gotten into the partying scene and just drinking and doing blow, and it wasn't a good thing for me anymore. And I was starting to feel within my spirit that I wasn't living a decent life.
And it's got to be tough when you're just. I mean, we all know a situation where we're surrounded by something and we can be taken in. It may not be that, it may be just something else, and we all just fall into place. And at the time, it doesn't seem completely wrong.
Yeah. Well, I grew up, my dad's a pastor, so I grew up in the church. And so I just felt this tugging on my heart that I wasn't living right. And so I started to get my life back to God again, and my drummer that I was in the band Afton Kid with, he became a Christian, and I saw such a radical change in his life that I was like, wow, this is really something, I need to check this out. And so I left Stormer and I started going to church and just kind of getting my life together.
Yeah,
and
awesome.
With God. And it was probably 6 to 8 months had gone by since I had been out of Stormer, and I got a call one night from a or I got a message that Robert Sweet had called my house, and my mom had talked to
Huh.
him. Said he's in this band called Rocks Regime, and they're a Christian band, which I didn't remember them ever being a Christian band at the time because we had played shows back to back before. But
Yeah.
anyway, so I had been praying for some kind of Christian group to be used, musically. Um, and so it just so happened that the day that I had prayed this prayer that Robert had called that night when I got home. And I was at a prayer meeting that day.
That's pretty incredible.
I came home that night and there was a note, Robert and Rock Regime was a Christian band. Anyways, I called them up and we got together the next day and I listened to their demo that they had made. And
Yeah.
the song, it was on the first album called From Wrong to Right, was the song
Yeah.
that I had heard, and it just like, that was it,
That's it. That's the one.
So, yeah, so so I had gone from Stormer, where these guys are all seasoned, and we had done some touring and played out a lot, and so I'm with this band Stormer, which are older guys, getting in a band with guys that are my age.
Yeah.
And we're all a bunch of knuckleheads and immature, and it was a different experience.
And that's what I'm saying. It's just, it's tough.
Yeah, so it was fun. I mean, it was even more of a learning experience, and things took off after I joined the band, and we ended up changing the name from Rocks Regime to Striper, and then we got signed to Enigma Records.
Enigma Records, yeah.
Went in and did we did some demos first, and then we went in and did the first album, which was an EP. I think we had like $6,000 budget for the whole thing. It was like, we just went in $1,000 a song, and the way everything was just kind of hurried, and the way it was recorded, and it was just, a learning experience. And
sure,
never thought that it would do anything. I mean, yeah, there was always a chance. We're just, I didn't give much thought to the future. It was just,
right.
This is what we're doing and what I'm doing, and it took off. And
yeah,
I mean, the band itself, we already had a following based on the kids that came to our rehearsals on Thursday night. We'd have a Bible study. The band would get up and play, and then we'd have this Bible study afterwards. And we had our friend Michael Guido, who was the drummer that I played with in African Kid. He got into ministry, and so he's getting his feet wet in ministry just kind of for the first time, and we're getting our feet wet and just learning about all this stuff and just giving it to God and letting him take it wherever he's going to take it. And that's what happened. Right. And kids started showing up, went from like maybe 5 or 10 people to on a Thursday night to maybe 50 to 75, 100 people just out in this. We were rehearsing in a garage. So it was like, there's a picture somewhere of the room just filled. We're like up in the corner playing, and there's kids all around us. And then they're going out the door into the driveway and into the front yard. So we had, at the time of our first show in '84, February of '84, we had already had a following just based on our rehearsals. So we played our first show, and I forget who we were opening for, but the place was packed out with our fans. And as soon as we got done playing, everybody left. And it was some local band that was, up and coming, and all of our fans were there, and it looked like it was going to be a packed house for them, but they all left after we got done.
Yeah. See ya. Gotta go. Yeah. My time here is done.
But everything just kind of blossomed and took off because we were open to what God was doing in our lives, and we didn't know any better. We just gave it to God and said, "Here, we want to be different. We want to tell people about God. Tell them about that they can be saved through Jesus Christ, through what he did on the cross, and people responded to that. And
Yeah.
we were playing like shows. We played 2 shows in a row at the Troubadour in Hollywood, where there's lines going around the block for people to get in, and then they come back and do another show. I mean,
Wow.
it took off and it got huge really fast. And um, we went to Japan, and like within a year, we were in Japan while we're recording Soldiers album.
Yeah.
Before the album had even been finished, we went to Japan, and that's where you get the Live in Japan video.
Yeah.
And anyways, it blossomed and took off, and it was just really cool to see
Wow.
how things happen.
Yeah. Now, I do have to ask because, to me, of course, you seem like a quieter, reserved type person, and it was a bit of a social, a jungle out there on the Sunset Strip, London and some of the other bands that were up and coming that we'd end up seeing in the Decline of Western Civilization Part 2. How did you react to that? I mean, we already know kind of, but so maybe I should move forward on that. And actually, because you already told me it's easy to get wrapped up into all that when you were doing the Stormer days.
Mm-hmm.
But then what I got to thinking about earlier is most of us who were geographically completely away from that area and only heard about it later after the hair metal explosion happened, most of us really, some of us aren't thinking that. We all just think it's the 80s. Remember the 80s and the hair bit? Well, a lot of that stuff was up and coming in the late 70s.
Yep.
So while on the East Coast, you were thinking, and I'm sure punk was happening on the West Coast too, but you have punk and disco on its way through.
Yep.
And but during that time, 78, 79, you got Van Halen, who was up and coming in the mid 70s.
Yep.
And so that scene was building through that time frame. And then, yes,
and
by the time the 80s hit.
I saw Quiet Riot many times with Randy Rhoads in the band and Rudy.
There you go.
I mean, that era of music, those guys, obviously, I think it was 80. When did they come out with that first album? Metal Health was
81.
81.
Yeah, because Back in Black was 80. That was kind of the resurgence, or the start, the resurgence of metal.
That's right. Because Randy ended up in Ozzy, so that's now it's so I saw all that. And even before Motley was Motley Crue, I mean London,
right. Right. And I have to correct that. I'm wrong. It was 83 when Metal Health came out. 81 was Ozzy, and he was coming up in 81, but then 83 is when that Metal Health album hit, because
and then Rat's first album, I think, was around the same time.
84. Yeah. And they had the EP though before that. Yes.
Yeah.
So yes.
So I mean,
so there's another.
It was a cool time. I mean, the 70s into the early 80s. And then Hollywood just kind of turned into that whole poser thing, where everybody was just, the same. And
that must have been some kind of crazy, I don't know, almost kind of a war of minds. Who can be, who can be better than the other one? Who does their shtick more or better than the other?
Yeah. Well, I mean, it was the look too. I mean, everybody, how much makeup can you wear, and how high can you tease your hair? And
yes,
I did it. I mean, I was all part of that whole thing. It's like, no wonder things changed. Guns N' Roses and Nirvana, when everything changed to Seattle and that whole new sound came into play. We had our 10 years of time and fame or whatever, and but you're talking about the punk scene before that, and I remember going to see Black Flag. I wasn't a punker, but I I went to the whiskey and saw Black Flag.
Yeah.
It was just, oh, this is some different kind of music, you know.
Right.
And alternative would be Blondie, you know. At
Yeah.
the same time, it's like that, you know, from one extreme to the other, and then there's
Yeah.
other rock bands that were still trying to do their thing. Everything was
Yeah.
like you know, in this big battle to see what the next Van Halen or the next thing would be.
Yeah.
And you know, the hair metal just kind of took off. And
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it's got to be an interesting thing where you you get Van Halen going, and now, all of the record companies are looking for the next, like you said, who's going to be that next Van Halen, since it's an American deal, and you've got all these, American labels that are out there, Capitol and all these Warner Brothers and all this other stuff. So there's a lot of competition to be that next person, right?
yeah.
So let me see what I've got here also. Oak City Gamers there. With your experience in different bands and representing a Christian faith with Stryper, how difficult is it to handle the judgments of many people who think we cannot be wrong in life?
Well, I mean,
Wrong in life.
I think the hardest part was getting attacked by other Christians. I mean, you expect the
Right.
non-believers or unbelievers to attack you. That's just part of the deal. But to have and we dealt with that, and they probably still do deal with people in the church that came up against the band because we're playing the wrong kind of music, or we're dressing a certain way, or so yeah, we had to deal with it. But I think that all came to a head with the Against the Law album. I mean, we finally just got so fed up that we came out with our own rebellion to the whole hacking.
Yeah, because I was wondering what that must have been like, even just earlier on. How often? I was asking too. I was going to ask you, how often did you guys play, say, as Rock's Regime? How often were you playing out?
Yeah, as the band Rock's Regime, we didn't. When I joined the band, I think, let's see, it was August of '83. We were Rock's Regime, and I think it was probably within 3 months that we changed our name to Stryper. So, August of '83, and our first show as Stryper was February '84. Wow. So it was just a few months.
Yeah, I couldn't imagine it was easy being, working that. And I shouldn't say it that way. That's not that doesn't seem sincere. Being a Christian band, being a band of believers, I can imagine how it wasn't easy being in and amongst that atmosphere.
For me, it wasn't. I don't think for any of us really it was. I don't think it was that hard.
Okay.
We had within ourselves, we had our core group of guys. We had, so it was us, and we had guys on our road crew. Everybody, pretty much everybody that was associated with us was a believer. So
that's cool.
It wasn't until later, when we started playing out with other bands that would open, like on the not Soldiers, on the To Hell with the Devil, on that tour is when we started having other bands actually touring with us and opening, for a period of time. And we all got along, depending upon who the band was, Hurricane or White Lion or whoever, Loudness.
I know when I saw you here the first time, actually that's when we met, was in '89 on the In God We Trust tour, and Jet Boy was opening up.
Jet Boy, yeah. We all got along, even though they all knew what we were about, and they respected that, and we respected
Yeah.
them, and we all ate dinner together and hung
Well,
out together, and
yeah. And let's face it, it doesn't make being a believer doesn't make you anything different of a human. You're still human. You're still, I think a lot of people just they want to see that or view it or describe it as something that holds you back. When in fact you're like, no, it's just something that it's just a belief that I have. It's no different than anything you believe, and I can be just as cool, and because we're just human, we can all be cool to each other. It's really just it's just a different whatever rules you're going to live by. That's what it comes down to. It's got
and it's like we are human and we make mistakes, and I guess we're held to as a Christian, you're held to a higher standard than other people would be, but
right. Which I've played gigs here in town before for years. I've been playing for a little over 20 years now, and I've had people come up to me and we'll have these, all of a sudden we have these meaningful conversations, and they're like, well, you probably think I'm a bad person because I go, it's not between you and me. I think you're just fine. You haven't done anything to me, to make me think anything different. And when it comes down to that, I'm not the person that's here to judge you. That's not my job. So, it gets a little interesting when people throw that people throw that down on things, you're like, no, just chill out. It's all good. So, but, God gave you the tools. If your faith is strong, they're good tools. Yeah. Believe and ye shall perceive. Nice. So, let me see here. What's we have next? Because you spent a lot of years in and out of Stryper, and you recorded 10 albums. Recorded music for 10 albums. Let's put it that way, because in and amongst those are like a best of for which you guys recorded some new music, and and so
I don't know how many I played on. I really don't know. I have no idea.
Well, there's a list. There's a list in many different places. I mean, and and there's things that you recorded, like live material and things like that too, that are out there.
I've got a list on my website, but I haven't counted them up.
You do, and it's I'm gonna step into that here in a little bit. One of my favorite things that I got was a laser disc, and I still have it, and I can still play it. As the laser disc of In the Beginning. I thought that was a pretty cool video. And
I guess they put it on. Also, I just need a laser disc player.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I got Live in Japan, and In the Beginning on laser disc.
Are they both on the same disc, or are they two different discs?
Two different.
Yeah. Okay. I just want to make sure. Yeah, and I guess they've got the In the Beginning is now on DVD. I'm sure. I think I saw that. So
yeah, I'm not sure. I've got so much stuff in boxes. I'd have to pull it out. I'm sure I got that too.
I got a friend of mine like that.
Yeah, everything is on DVD, but now you can just go to YouTube and watch it all. You can.
I was watching a pretty cool show of Foo Fighters, who are here tonight, actually. And they were playing in Chicago, downtown Chicago at Lollapalooza. So that was pretty cool. But what are some of your, with the Stryper thing? I mean, I don't hate to ask this, but I want to ask this to be, how are you with, I mean, obviously we've been talking Stryper. So, I mean, when were you stepped out last here? Was that been like?
So I was fired in 2017.
17. Okay.
Late May or early June. I
gotcha.
Yeah.
Gotcha.
So.
Well, but like, I wanted to ask. Yeah, go ahead. What's that?
I said I'll just leave it at that. Well, we decided to part ways.
Yes. Right. But you know, during those years, I mean, those were some great years in music and a great thing to be a part of. And what are just some of your favorite times, memories, experiences of those albums and of that, that time frame? What are you, and I guess of those records, what are say your top three favorites?
Yeah, top three. Number one would be Against the Law,
Okay,
and
interesting. Okay,
that it was just a time. I mean, so you got to understand uh, some of what we had gone through that led up to that album being recorded was, having to deal with um, being in the spotlight,
mm,
um, which in itself
mm,
isn't bad, but it got to the point where we couldn't do anything, just being a normal person, because we'd be
mhm.
accused. Well, the fingers are always pointing at us, and we'd
Right,
be accused of, I couldn't go to like a convenience store because they sold
right,
beer or liquor or cigarettes or
right.
something. It's like, what do people are always like looking at you can't be talking to a girl because
Yeah, yeah,
God forbid you're messing around. So it's
right.
like that whole thing just got old, and we were having uh, even within the band, it got to the point where we were self-policing each other,
Yeah,
and it's like it was kind of becoming a miserable
right.
experience to be in the band, because the only thing you could do afterwards is just go to your hotel room and lock the
Hmm.
door, and so what led up to that was, uh, after In God We Trust, we had some time off, and we just kind of let loose and hung out together,
Oh,
which we
interesting.
never did before. It was like I was always jealous of, like, it seemed like the Motley Crue guys were having a fun time. They'd go out and ride motorcycles or whatever, and just hang out, and they were like a gang. And it's like we weren't. We were just, you know off. Everybody was off doing their own thing and
Right.
isolated. And so we got together and just hung out for the first time, I think, ever since I'd been in the
Wow.
band, and just played pool, and we'd watch movies and just uh, work on some songs. And so we started. It was like an eight month period of just hanging out together, and rehearsing some songs, writing songs together, and just um, that whole album. Just there's a camaraderie that's just, you can hear it within
Wow.
the band. It's like a tight knit unit. Um, and So, anyways, just going in, that album, to me at least, is one of my favorites. And then
Hmm.
uh, the last two that I worked on, also, actually, the covering, I'd say, was probably my third. And then uh, No More Hell to Pay. I couldn't think of the name of the album.
Yeah,
No More Hell to Pay is like
I've been there.
No More Hell to Pay is probably my number two favorite,
Oh,
and
okay.
the covering is probably my third. And they were all just a lot of fun and good
Yeah.
experiences to record, and just hang out and make some good music.
Yeah, that's cool. Thanks for sharing that about Against the Law, because a lot of times, even though there's a lot of stuff on that album I love, I don't know if I've ever thought of it as one of my top ones, but what often happens for folks who are listeners who don't play, or they've been a big fan for years, is they don't ever look at it like that. So I really appreciate you mentioning that and that experience about that
Yeah,
album, because I think there was just a lot of questions. I think when it came out, a lot of people were like, what the heck is this, or what are they trying to say, or there's just too
yeah,
much.
yeah. I
There's
mean,
just
the song
you know
itself, "Against the Law," was about, basically, we don't live. All these people
mm,
pointing their fingers at us and trying to pull us in
right,
different directions within the church.
right,
we're
Yeah.
not, we live for God. We're not following, you know, your denominations or whatever your ideals are, you know,
Right.
within the church that we're supposed to live under, I suppose. You know.
Yeah, and it's like I've always said, you know, it's in the book. I don't understand why we still have all of the different denominations. I mean, I kind of do. I kind of know why in
Yeah,
a earthly sense, but in a Christian sense, and I don't understand it because it says right there in the book that they all read. It says God hates division, and I'm like, I don't get why you still need to divide yourself from them by
yeah.
saying that's not
Well,
who we are,
who's
or
the author of division or confusion? You know, it's the devil.
that's it.
And
That's it. You know, and it's just kind of it's an interesting thing. Kind of go, it's kind of weird, like Sex Pistols. Why the Sex Pistols, as a punk band who is against the man and against rules, why'd they ever sign with EMI? I don't understand it.
yeah,
we're, we're going to sign with the man just so the man puts our music out.
yeah,
Like, you may have been bigger and lasted longer if you'd have held out and just done your own records, because who cares? You know,
yeah.
you're just
You're-
pissing off anyway. So it doesn't matter whether you do it with a record company or on your own. You'd probably do, they put one record out. So it's just silly.
yeah.
Silly. But now, let me ask you this though. I have to ask this now because what are your feelings on Soldiers? Is probably just nostalgically, probably maybe it is, but I love the songs on that record still. And you know, what's just a couple of words you say about that album?
That album was, um, like I said, we were recording that when we went to Japan. So
Mhm. That was
the,
Michael Wagner, wasn't it?
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, he just
I love
retired, I
Michael.
guess.
Yeah, he's a great guy.
Yeah.
I hooked up with him a few years back when I lived in Nashville, and
Yeah.
he had his studio there, and we
Mm-hmm.
went by one day and said hello and went to lunch. But um, we recorded that. It was we okay. So this is another thing. When we were recording that, Metallica was doing the '85. Which album were they?
Were they doing Ride the Lightning, or
Uh,
were they doing Masters actually?
I think Masters.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
so we were in the same studio. So we go in every day and record, and they were in the other
Wow.
room doing their stuff, and so we'd see each other in the in the lobby, and you know nobody ever said anything to each other, but I just kind of remember those days from
Wow.
the experiences and just the things that happened. But yeah, we did that at a place called Amigo Studios, and
Oh,
then
okay.
we did a few tracks at a place called Smoke Tree Ranch also.
Oh, wow.
In Amigo was in Burbank, and Smoke Tree Ranch was out in the valley somewhere. Um, but when you see the video, Soldiers Under Command, the actual
Yeah.
music
Yeah.
video,
Mm-hmm.
you can see us standing around the mic and singing, or there's shots of Michael with the microphone, and there's
Yeah.
a big wooden wheel behind him, like a
Yeah.
wagon wheel. And that was at Smoke Tree Ranch where they did that.
Okay.
Anyways,
Wow.
but it was a fun experience. I personally I don't care for the mix on that album, as far as
Mm.
you can't hear the bass. It's just buried. And
Yeah.
it's just one of those things.
Yeah. Interesting. Wonder, yeah. You wonder if a remaster could bring that out a little bit more.
Yeah, I don't know. It was just the way it was at the time, and
Yeah.
I mean, you can hear me on other albums later on, so
Yeah.
it's all good.
Interesting thought. Some beautiful harmonies on that record, just like there are on all the rest. But I mean,
The
some
first two albums, Yellow and Black Attack and Soldiers, I actually sang we did those, and we sang live at the time. I mean, we were
Wow.
singing those vocals live. But I sang on the records, and then I think I sang on Against the Law, and then Oz and Mike did everything else. They usually have a system where they just go in and just
Gotcha.
knock out the vocals, and they just
Gotcha.
stack them, and they're, you know,
Right.
and then play my bass, and I go home.
Well, here's a question too from Manuel. We know we can't change the past, but are there any decisions that you regret having made in your musical years?
Yeah, I mean, there's probably lots of
Yeah.
decisions I've made that I probably, I can't think of anything offhand that I would change,
Yeah.
but yeah, I mean, you wish you play better in a certain song, or played a different way, or
Mm,
stood up for yourself, or whatever, and
yeah.
and
Yeah.
it's all a learning experience, and you move on.
Mhm.
There's nothing I can change, but
Nope. Yeah.
there's probably things I would have done differently if I would have known what I know
Yeah.
now.
Sure. Yeah. I mean, that's usually one of our biggest lessons, right? Don't live
Yeah,
it with regret. That's always my thing, is everything happens for a reason and everything happens when it should.
yeah, absolutely.
Um, MTV was such a huge dang thing back in the day. I mean, do you have any good reflections from those MTV video days?
Yeah, that's when everything really took off. I mean, up
Mm,
until, Soldiers, even at that time, we weren't getting any airplay. But uh, To Hell with the Devil, we did we did the
yeah.
Calling on You video.
Yeah.
We did that at A&M on the Charlie Chaplin stage, and
Wow.
the Chaplin stage was, that was the old Chaplin Studios, silent picture days, and
Wow.
we did the video, and um, we'd done other videos, but this was like a full budget video. I mean, they
Yeah.
lights and
It's
sparklers
huge
and all that stuff.
stage with the logo and
Yeah, yeah. So
yeah.
well, that was uh, the next album, from
Oh, was
Ago,
that?
the big
Okay.
$100 bill stage. That was.
Yeah. Yeah.
Anyways, point being, we went in, did this video, and it got airplay.
Mm,
It started getting in rotation, and while we're on the road, then we did Free. We did the Free video while we were on the
mhm.
road, and that was all done with cameras, traveling. And then we did uh, Honestly, and so we had those
Yeah.
three
Yeah.
songs. When
Yeah.
Honestly hit, we're still playing. We're playing theaters, 1,000, 1,500 seat theaters. When Honestly hit, it took off, and it ended up in the top 40. And we went from playing theaters to playing 15,000 seat arenas on our own.
Wow.
And so just that one song changed everything. And that was all, MTV at the time, the airplay. And everybody had a ballad at that time.
I was gonna say
And
that
the
was
rock ballads, everybody
yeah.
had them. So,
Yeah. Yeah. It was those were the days, man. Those were the days.
yeah.
Uh, um, let's see. I was just thinking about this too. I know what I wanted to do here. I was wondering, you've had a catalog of music, like many of our other bass brothers, folks that have even been on the show, like Billy Sheehan, Mike LaPond, Doug Pinnick. They have a list of other projects that they've done over the years. And
Mhm.
as I was looking at your website, I was noticing there's a cool little slideshow at the bottom. And
Mhm.
I just was wondering if you wouldn't mind. I got some of these photos in. I wondered if you might walk me through what some of these are.
Okay, this is a band I was just in up until last year,
Huh.
last January when COVID hit. This is of Gods and Monsters, the first
Yeah.
the first version, and that was with Dean, who's now back with Journey, and
Wow.
Kevin Gucci was the singer, still is a singer, and Joey Tafoya
Okay.
on guitar, and we did an album, uh, released it, and did some shows. We started doing some shows around Texas, and oh gosh, we played here in Tucson. I think was our last show that we did, and then COVID hit and
Yeah.
kind of shut everything down. So, but it was
Yeah.
just a fun band. It was a project that I got involved with, and a lot of fun. They've just reformed. Kevin has reformed with some new players, and I think they
Oh,
either have a new album out or getting ready to release a new album. And
wow.
good guys though.
Wow. And then there's this one.
Same
What's
band,
this? Is that
same
anybody
band.
different?
That was
Okay.
either before or after we played. I think that's in Dallas,
Gotcha.
Texas.
Yeah, Dean, amazing on the voice. I don't know where, he's like John Sykes to me because I'm like,
Yeah,
John Sykes started doing, and back in like 88, he started doing Blue Murder. And I'm like, where's this guy been the whole time?
yeah,
This guy's
yeah.
got a voice.
Dean's amazing. Yeah,
Gosh.
yeah. I mean, you hear him singing. Uh, gosh, he's got a great voice.
Yeah. He does all
He's
that journey stuff. And
a monster player. I love
yeah,
Dean. He's a great guy.
yeah. And then here we go. Here's the photo.
There's
There
the
you
Elton.
are.
That's Kenny Metcalf as Elton, um, and I think this is in El Paso. I mean,
Oh, is that right?
we're playing a casino somewhere, but yeah. So his daughter Charlene is she plays Kiki D,
Oh,
and
sweet.
I think she's still managing. She manages the band.
Wow. That's fantastic. She plays Kiki D. That's great. And then here's some shots through the years.
Yeah. So and again, I like stingrays.
Yeah.
I still have my white stingray.
Yeah.
Back, let me grab it.
Yeah.
All right. So
Oh
the white
yeah.
stingray is 1980, I think, with Stormer, and then okay, so the picture with the yellow and black background is the same bass, but it was done with electric tape, yellow and black electrical tape,
Yeah.
which made the bass not resonate. And so
Yes.
Robert did this. He because we couldn't afford a paint job back in those days. Everything was done, we did everything. But Robert put tape on my bass, yellow and black tape, and then he put this varnish. It was like a urethane
Oh
over it to
no.
make it look like it, was a lacquer.
Yeah.
A lacquer finish. The problem is that it was like encasing the body in rubber.
Yeah. Yes.
So it didn't resonate. It made my bass sound terrible. So anyways, that thing got put aside for a few years, and then I had it refretted, and I still play it. It's like my main bass that I play to this day.
Oh man.
And then I picked up a black one. It's a 2008 model, and so both of those
Wow.
pictures on the bottom are just me playing the black one, which I've sold since then.
Wow. So here, I'll have you can hold it up. Let me put you in
This guy. Can I get it on camera here?
yeah, let me do a solo. There you go.
Okay, so
Yeah.
look for this. I mean, all the damage has been done by me over the years.
Yes.
The road rash.
Yes.
I bought this guy brand new for $450, somewhere in there.
Oh,
Came with a
man.
hard shell case, T-shirt, all the case candy, and a gig bag. So I have the Music Man gig bag. I have everything. Oh, the strap, the original Music Man strap.
Oh my gosh.
But I don't know if you can see. Maybe if I can get it to
Maybe.
show up there. There's like scratch.
Yeah, there, right there is a kind of a circular spot there, a blemish.
Yeah, that's not what
Right,
I'm
but
trying to- There's like marks on here.
yeah,
We'll try this bottom. You're not
because I
going to be able to see it, but there's marks where the tape used to be.
that's
Um, from where, so there was tape, and I don't know if he used a razor blade or what to like
oh
cut it, but
shoot.
it's like the whole body's got these marks where the tape used to be. So I don't know.
Oh,
Anyways, this is my baby. I've had it since new, and
oh wow. Wow. Yeah, I have my mine is this is my first base, and I just had it on the show a while back um, because it's autographed now. So this is my oh here, let me
I can't
switch
see
you
it.
out. Let me switch you out there.
Oh
And then
wow, look at
I'll make mine the solo layout. So there she is.
that. Oh, very cool.
Yeah. So everybody from Sammy Hagar to Jason Newsted uh, to Victor Wooten and Eric Brittingham, and we just lost Jeff Labar. He signed on here as well. That's
Oh man.
Jeff Labar right there.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and then the first one I got was Mr. Ellefson on the back.
Oh, very cool.
Yeah. Yeah, that's been a thing.
I need to go.
Losing rock stars.
We're
That's,
losing. Yeah, let me put this down.
I mean,
We're losing so many people.
yeah, what did we lose? Was it 5 in 2 weeks now?
Yeah. Yeah.
So, I guess Mike Howe, I guess, had some medical issues, and he wasn't ready to hang with anymore.
Yeah.
So that's got to be a bad, sad story right in there. So, but Dusty Hill, and
Yeah.
I don't know,
It's,
kind of wild.
we're all destined for that at some
Yeah,
point, and
at some point.
what that's what Striper was all about, was trying to tell people about don't go to hell, give your life to Christ, so that you don't know when you're going to pass on. We all
Hmm.
have a date with our days coming,
Hmm.
but there's no second chances once you take your last breath.
Yeah,
And that's
yeah,
why we've wanted people to know where they're going, because there is an afterlife. And our
yeah,
last breath we take here will be our first breath taken in eternity,
yeah.
either heaven or hell.
And I think there's a lot to be said about what those kind of just acknowledging certain situations like that, perhaps, that can help you to have a better view of your neighbor.
Mm-hmm.
Right now with this pandemic and everything, there's so much being put on people against people, and you're like, there's other
Causing
things.
major division.
Yeah, yeah. I call out the Sneetches story all the time, Dr. Seuss, because there was
Yeah,
the Sneetches with stars and the Sneetches without, and
yeah,
they didn't want anything to do with each other. And I'm like, whoa, wait a minute. Let's take it
yeah,
down a notch, people, or else we're going to end up a Sneetch.
yeah,
So,
absolutely.
so it's tough. Now, tell me a little bit about, well, and here's Signature Strings. How about that?
Doggone it, bass strings.
Yeah, gotta
That's
love them
my
bass
signature
strings.
line. So those are it's a company here in Phoenix that I endorse, and
Yeah,
Eddie is a good guy. He's helped me out a lot since I've been here in Arizona, and he's started this company, and I think he's got a good product, and
that's cool.
they're taking off. They're going to be a big deal.
I need to try some out. That's for sure. Because
Yeah,
I've been playing
that's
a
the
lot
gauge.
of four string.
Yeah, four string.
What?
He makes five. He makes whatever you want. Guitar
Yeah,
strings. Um,
cool.
so doggonitstrings.com.
Yeah. And is that your favorite, what I just showed there? Is that your favorite gauge?
Oh, the gauge. Yeah, that's what I use live.
Mm-hmm.
And
Okay.
when I'm at home, I either use I'm either playing flat wounds or I
Mm-hmm.
use a little bit heavier for recording.
Okay.
Uh, but I'm either using a 105 or a 110.
Right. Okay.
But live, I like them a little bit slinkier.
That's interesting.
I use a 100 on the bottom.
Huh. I might have to try that. I might have to try that. Change it up a little bit myself. Because
Yeah.
sometimes I get, I just get caught up and that's just what I use. That's just what I do. I'm not a gear guy. I'm not a,
If
I
you
don't, I'm
dig
not,
in, if you dig in too much, like you really start digging in, you're gonna like probably start going sharp. I mean, that's because there's
yeah.
a, but I mean, I have a tendency to do a lot of bending, and they seem to
Okay.
bend really well for me.
Oh,
Like,
that's good.
yeah,
That's good. And that would help with this new band that I'm working with too. So
well, yeah,
I'll think about that. Well, and that leads me to this photo,
yeah.
Breakfast at
So,
Timothy's. Tell us a little bit about this. Give us a rundown on how this album came about, and do you have another one in the works at all?
yeah. So, 2008, I was working in a warehouse in Nashville, and I was telling my friend Chris, uh, well, man, I wish I had the time to record and just do a like a bass album that we could let's do. I wanted to do a band. I wanted to put something together and just play around in the clubs
Mm-hmm.
or you know nothing big. And I said I just don't have the time and I'm burnt out. And he
Hmm.
started. I said I wanted it to be like a bass album, like the bass out front, but
Yeah.
he started writing songs. And so Chris Eddy is Dwayne Eddy's son, the
Oh
guitar hero,
wow.
um, and he's an excellent producer, songwriter, multi-talented musician, drummer, guitar player. He plays everything. So
Wow.
and singer. So I
Jeez.
had been in a band with this guy pretty much since I moved to Nashville, and we knew each other from Hollywood days. He used to live in LA, and he was in a band that we played with at Gazzari's called Brand Boulevard.
Okay.
So we knew each other since we were young, and it just turned out that he happened to be a neighbor of mine in Tennessee, and we just kind of hooked up again. And we played everything from church together to playing in bands together. So we'd been, and then he hired me to do recording with him all the
Yeah.
time. So he's producing demos, and just I go down to his house. There's tons of stuff. We were just talking yesterday or the day before um, about a bunch of songs that I had played on,
Yeah.
and I didn't even remember playing on them, but he sent me these songs. So, anyways, I told Chris, I go, man, it'd be great to do something, a bass album, and just he starts writing these songs and sending them to me, and I'm like, oh, that's pretty cool. And then next thing I know is like 10 days or so goes by, and he's got a whole album written for me. I'm all right, oh, dude, thanks. And so we started recording. We recorded drums in his garage, and I did. The rhythm bass tracks, and then he
Yeah.
laid down guitars, and then I recorded the solo bass tracks on. So we just laid down, layered everything, uh, and we had the album finished. Had David Safiro, who was in the band Bloodgood, who's
Mm-hmm.
mix engineer. He mixed the album. He had just finished at the time Little Big Town.
Oh
Uh,
wow.
like the song Boondocks, when that whatever album that
Yeah.
was,
Yeah.
he had just finished mixing that album. So, uh, anyways, he had mixed that. We recorded it, released it, mixed it, released it, and I got the call to rejoin Striper. So I just kind of put everything on the back burner.
Yeah.
And so, anyways, that album was finished in
Wow.
2000 or released in 2009. We recorded 2008 and 2009. It was fun. It's instrumental.
Yeah.
Um, Nothing, no flash playing or anything, and nothing fancy. It's just more or less the bass guitar taking over the melody where somebody normally would be singing. So,
Well, maybe the next one will have some real fiery compositions within it, and you could call it Dinner at Timothy's.
yeah, exactly.
You could do some salsa stuff. You could really shake it up.
I've got, gosh, so I got this little recorder. So because I'm right here in this is where I do all my recording, but I use a little handheld recorder to record all my ideas. And I've got tons, but I just haven't applied myself. I haven't gotten anything done yet. But
well, let this little discussion be the beginning of Dinner at Timothy's. I mean,
yeah, there we go.
You could do some funk. You could do some, do some cool stuff that you would listen to, while you're having a dinner party.
A lot of the stuff is bluesy oriented.
Oh, yeah.
Riffy bass lines that could be done on, because I play guitar too. So a lot of it I've done on guitar, and then I reapply the bass. There's jazz stuff in there. There's I don't know. Someday I'll get around to doing it, and if there's an audience for it, I will release it and see what happens.
Maybe you could have one or two tracks on it where you have some vocal.
Yeah.
Change it, change it up somehow.
Anybody wants to hear my my terrible singing?
Well, you don't have to sing.
Oh, I'll have somebody else sing. Yeah.
Yeah, you could have somebody. I'll come in and do something.
There you go.
And then you can kick me out. But no, that Born Distracted wants to thank you for your years with Stryper. Awesome. As do I. I mean, those were fun years and really cool years to be listening to some great metal. I always said that about Stryper. You know what I'm really glad he said that, because that's something, because back in the day, you remember how it was. There were bands that they had the whole list, right? You'd go to your local Christian store, and it was, if you like Rat, try such and such. If you like Iron Maiden, try Barren Cross. If and what was the one band that I was into that, I mean, doggone, was it White Cross that sounded so much like Rat? I mean, it was all the way down to the singers sounded just like Stephen Pearcy or the guy from.
Yeah, it's Scott Wenzel. It's a singer.
Yeah.
Did they sound like Rat?
One of them did. One of them sounded just. I'm like, oh my gosh, they sound just like Rat. But that's what I always loved about Stryper. Stryper was Stryper. I didn't go out there and think, well, these guys sound a lot like. Boy, they sound a lot like these guys.
We had our own thing going. And,
I mean, truly.
Comparisons to people who compared Michael's voice to Dennis DeYoung or something.
Well,
but I mean, for the most part, I think that was early on. His voice, these later years has become very powerful and different tone altogether.
Yeah, look at this. Saludos desde Chile.
Chile. Hola, amigo. Thank you for giving us. Stryper, they were undoubtedly the best moments. Thank you. I love Chile. Love being there. It was a great country.
Yeah, I've heard great things. Yeah, I've heard great things about the shows down there and doing shows down there, and all the way to. Have you seen the? Maybe I won't say anything about this on here because I don't want to misquote it or anything. It's just it's one of those funny stories that come from the way that you translate words. Mm-hmm. So if you ever have the time, check out the Zebra documentary that's out there. They have a documentary on the band Zebra. Yeah.
Zebra. Okay.
And there's a great one in there from a story about them playing in South America and playing a track off their first album. So that's as far as I need to go with that.
Okay.
but yeah, what a great band that is too. I mean,
Yeah.
that's an amazing,
Gosh,
amazing thing.
we opened for them early on, like
Did you?
84, 85, somewhere in there.
Yeah.
California.
Wow. So that probably would have been, I mean, it was obviously for maybe No Telling Lies came out in 84, 85, I think was the 3.5 album.
I don't
But
remember.
just such a good band. Yeah. Yeah.
Long time ago.
Yeah. It was a couple days ago. Well, the next thing I will mention is kind of our history. You know, as I mentioned earlier, you and I met in '89 at the Fox on the In God We Trust tour. Then again, we met in 2013. It was on the No More Hell to Pay tour, and we met in KC. And that was what I call a wonderful from the ashes, fateful night.
Yeah, 2016.
Was it 16 is when you guys met there?
Yeah, 2016.
Okay, I'm totally off then.
June 28th.
Wow, okay.
No, 16. Now you're making me think.
Yeah. So I guess it was for the Fallen tour then. Did I see you 3 times on the Fallen tour? I guess I saw you 3 times.
You and your wife came back at one show.
Yeah, that was the one here at the Ready Room. Where, dude, what a night was that? Yeah. I was really I was flipping out because we got there, everything worked out, we got in, but the opener were two awesome women from Nashville. And prior to a Stryper show, the whole crowd is singing 9 to 5 by Dolly Parton.
Yeah.
It's like, what is going on here?
Wow, that's great. I probably wasn't aware of what was going on with the opening.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, you know.
Yeah, it was wild. They were brilliant.
One of the other bands on before us were in the back teasing our hair and
yeah.
You know, like getting ready for the show. No,
Yeah, that was a trip though. That was the Ready Room. Then before that, I saw you in Peoria. I took my friend Cremena from work, and she and I drove up and saw you guys in Peoria. And in fact, I think I probably have. You
either brought muffins or cookies, or
I did. I brought muffins.
Either one. There we go.
Yeah, there's Peoria. There's St. Louis. There's Kansas City.
Okay.
At that. Oh my God! I swore that freaking place was going to fall down around us.
Yeah, that was the show that almost didn't happen.
Oh, I mean, dude,
it was the story. It's actually kind of an interesting story because we got there, and the bus had broken down. So we were in the parking lot. I forget what happened. There was something with the transmission or an axle. Something was not working on the bus. So the driver, we were stuck. We couldn't leave, and everything was just wrong that day. The stage, there was a big hole in the stage that they covered with a rug, and one of our crew guys fell through the hole, and PA problems. Everything was just not what we had requested in our rider, and so we were gonna just bail, but we couldn't. We were stuck. So that evening, we do the meet and greets. All these people drove in that had paid for a meet and greet ticket.
Yeah. And did you do that did you do that outside behind the building, or did you do that inside?
We did that in that same room where that.
Oh, I'm sorry. No, it was in the pool room up front.
Yeah.
Where they had the pool table. That's right. That's right. I just showed it. Yes, that's where we did that.
Yeah. So, but that was the night that almost didn't happen. And that was the night I met my wife.
And yes.
So I met Brandy at that show.
So this is one of those stories that you and I should really work out and do a choreography, a verbal choreography, because we could totally just bounce this day and night off of each other. And you take this side of it, and then I'll start in here, and then you step in, and because it was crazy. In the meantime, while you guys are broken down and going, what in the hell is going on here? And I'm on my way from St. Louis to Kansas City, and I pull up on this place and go, this can't be the place.
Yeah.
This cannot be the place. It looks
just,
like it's gonna collapse.
Yeah.
It was flat. The awning out front, I think, was hanging and drooping.
Yeah.
And I pull up, I'm like, what is going on? And there's my friend. She was there. We said hello. And on the drive over, I told Tim this. Tim and I have discussed this before, but I told him, I said, on the way over, I'm like, I bet one of these women is probably, she's like a hair metal fan. She's probably just gorgeous, whatever. I just was just thinking about this just because that's what you do when you're going to a band that you love in the hair metal days.
Yeah.
And I'll be doggone. They both were very attractive women. They were friends on Facebook of my friend who gave me the ticket.
Wow.
And Brandy, as somebody mentioned in the discussion, they're like, you're like a Breck girl. She's like, stop, just stop. And I'm like, I get it, but it is kind of true. But we talked, and I spent a bunch of time talking to her friend because her friend is a guitar player. So
yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
Karen.
Yes, Karen. Yes.
But so we were all isolated on that bus when we were there. We weren't inside the building because there was stuff going on behind the scenes that they didn't want us to be a part of. So I'm sitting in the front lounge on the bus at the table, and people started pulling up because it's getting late in the afternoon. And Brandy came with Marcia, our friend Marcia.
Yep.
And
that's our friend Marcia. Yeah.
Some other folks, and I think you might have been with them. I can't remember, but
I don't know that I was. Well, I was, as far, but up to the bus, I hadn't. I don't think.
So they had parked. I'm sitting there at the front table in the bus, just kind of staring out the window, and this car pulls up, and Brandy gets out, and I'm like, "Who the heck is that?" And that was it. I noticed she was very, very attractive.
Yes.
And, kind of left it at that, and then we went in to do the meet and greet later on. And she was part of that group that came in with the meet and greet.
Yep.
And we still didn't know if we were going to play the show or not. We just did the meet and greet for the people that had paid for those tickets. And she was part of the meet and greet again, and I just kind of kept my distance. I noticing but not saying anything, or
because we were a whole foursome that had walked in together, because I was there because of Marcia, and then so we all were in there together.
Yeah. So turns out we did the show,
and here is some of the pictures. This is some of the crappy pictures that I took with my phone.
Yeah, with the ceilings that were like 20 feet tall, right? I mean, I didn't dare jump up in the air. I would have hit my head.
No, no. And the tiles are drooping. I'm like, oh my gosh. So you can see once the meet and greet was done, it took for freaking ever for us to get into the building.
Yeah.
And then once we did, we found a table straight away. And I remember putting my phone down on the table, and then Brandy says out loud, she goes, "I want to go up front." And I said, "Do you want to go up front?" I said, "I'll get you up front." And I put my hand out, and she took my hand, and I walked her all the way to the front, so you can see where we're standing. We're just past your microphone spot.
Well, yeah,
and a little.
I knew exactly where she was standing.
Yeah. So then I realized I forgot my phone, so I said, "I'll be right back."
Yeah.
And I know I had to walk through a few people to get back out, but I'll be ding dang, they let me right back in as soon as I got back, because they're like, "Oh, dude, you're with her. Come on in. Go ahead." So we stood there and we were at the show, and we watched the show. I took pictures. It was a blast. We got guitar picks. I made sure that I gave her a couple of guitar picks that I got to. We were catching picks, and I'm handing them to her. and we just had a great time. It was a great show, despite the, you just forget about it once you're seeing one of your favorite bands. You're like, whatever. And
I was making eye contact the whole night with her, and I'm just like,
well,
are
yes,
you looking at me or and then at the I couldn't. She's got beautiful eyes.
oh yeah,
I'm like just mesmerized with her eyes, and
yeah,
she came up at the very end of the show, and I'm just kind of shaking hands with people, and she grabbed my hand, and that was. But I mean, that was it. It took a while.
Yeah.
To build.
Well, here's a shot. You think, is it okay if I show a shot of her and I at the show?
Yeah.
Yeah, there we are.
Wow.
There's Brandy.
Wow, that's
so
great picture.
This is.
I thought you guys were an item.
Yes, I ended up. You guys, when you moved, I was helping you with a bunch of the stuff that you had, and so that's when you and I had a chance to talk about it, and you're like, well, I didn't know if I wanted to give her because I didn't want to piss you off. I was like, what? I'm like, oh yeah, of course. I'm standing there. You think that, yeah, I get it. But I thought that was hilarious. I was like, no, we're not. No, we're not. But that was hanging out after the show. And then we walked over and she was a little shy about it. She didn't come over. Marcia and I were over talking with Oz, and then you stepped out, and then we're like, and you were like, is that your friend can come over too if she wants?
Yeah. I mean, I don't normally get off the bus after a show, especially from all sweaty from like that kind of a gig. It was very hot, like a sauna.
Yeah.
So, but I knew she was out there because she had come with Marcia.
Yes.
and Marcia's calling me like, we're gonna leave, pretty soon. And so I wanted to make sure I went out and said goodbye.
Yeah.
And sure enough, Brandy's like with her friend Karen standing off, at a distance parking lot. And I said, come on over. So we took pictures. It was our first picture together. My picture with her is very blurry, but I mean, that was
I got
the first picture I got with her. And, it's like afterwards, I just kept thinking about her. And after the show, the other thing that was interesting was that they just so happened to be staying at the hotel that the band, our bus pulls up, and everybody's getting off for the night. And I normally either stay on the bus or whatever, because we're going to leave early in the morning. But they were staying at the hotel and I saw that they were like there in the parking lot. I'm like, oh my God, she's here. I was like a little kid. I'm like, and
I know.
I stayed up all night on the bus, awake, because I was like, I wanted to see her the next morning when they were leaving, because I knew they were going to check out of the hotel at some point. And and then I felt stupid. I'm like, like my hair's sticking out, and I wasn't the rock star anymore. I was just some idiot getting off a bus, and
from rock star to dork star.
I didn't make any conversation with her or anything. I just kind of, nice to see you again, that kind of stuff. And then, but we made contact, and I don't know, it was all through Facebook, and we started talking and became friends, and then developed a relationship. And so
and you found out that your belief system too was on point, and kind of where you were, and that's a pretty amazing electric thing. I mean, I can't, when it happens, it happens, so Yeah. Now that, because that was a wonderful time. And like I say, From the Ashes, what a what a night, From the Ashes. You almost don't play it. The different things that could have gone differently.
Mhm.
Is always a fun point. And then here we are. This was one of the other shots, I think, in Peoria, because I think that's where I was wearing the
Yeah.
Fender shirt.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So there we are hanging out. That was a neat venue. They changed hands afterwards, and they call it something else, but it was kind of an interesting venue. It was that big rounded roof venue. It had the
I don't,
bar up
I
front, and
don't remember the inside. I remember that backstage area.
yeah.
It was kind of a big open area, and they had all the wood
Mhm.
paneling for
Yes. Yeah, because
for,
and then they had, like, in the middle of it, they had your, like, the dressing room or the green room there was, like, in the middle, and like there was two of them actually. It's two of those buildings next to each other,
yeah.
because one of them is like the hospitality area for the band and whatnot, and the bar, and then you walk through into the next building, and it's the venue where you have the stage at the very front, and then you have cordoned off sections and all that stuff.
Yeah.
So it was an interesting place. It's changed hands though now. Um,
It's
but
funny because you mentioned that, and I'm like, I remember the backstage area,
I know it.
and I normally don't know because where everybody else ends up, the audience, I don't go
Right.
out there. I know backstage, and I know hotel rooms, and that's about all I know. I've been to a place where I've actually stayed in the same hotel room uh, that I had been in prior, like a year or two prior, and I'm going, I remember this room. I remember the room
Mhm.
number. I remember walking down this hall, and it's the room, and this is the room. It's weird stuff, but I've stayed in the exact same room at a hotel that I'd been at like 2 years prior. That I had
Yeah.
stayed at. So just weird
Yeah.
stuff like that.
And sometimes it's stuff you remember because of good situations. Sometimes it's things you remember because of bad situations. Like I
Sure.
remember being in Europe and being in England actually, and for a Wayward Son show when they were on tour with Steel Panther, and I was wiped out in Bristol, and
Yeah.
I had a buddy of mine take me he was very nice and helped me get to the hotel and unpack my stuff. But I remember there's vending machines that I specifically remember because of how I'm like, oh dear God, just get me where I need to be. I need to be done,
Yeah.
because that was a weird time. But yeah, it's kind of weird how you you record things in your head.
Yeah.
Um, so now here's the thing I've been dying to ask you, and we can close up on this after we do this. But oh well, look at this. Before I do, Born Distracted says during the Against the Law years, Tim had the coolest look, kind of like Clint Eastwood. Go ahead, make my bass.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's kind of the look I was trying to go for. Was kind of like a gunslinging. I don't know. I had the
Yeah,
long brown jacket. I had the like cowboy boots and just
and you had the beard going too, didn't you?
yeah,
Yeah,
yeah, beard. Everybody was like growing facial hair.
yeah. It
Put
was the next
a,
wave in the hair metal.
put away the makeup and grow the facial hair.
Throughout the facial hair. Get a little grungy looking, right?
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So this is what I've been waiting to ask. I've been dying to talk to you about this. Being a classic Aldo Nova fan, hungry for new material, I completely flipped when you mentioned working with him on the new rock opera, The Life and Times of Eddie Gage. Um, Tell me, I just got to know what led up to that. How'd that happen?
Well, okay. So I'm still not sure if I played on one song. I'm not sure if it's ever gonna
Mm-hmm.
see the light of day or not. But
Yeah.
that's something that he had been working on for years.
Mm-hmm.
And what led up to me working with Aldo was Facebook. He saw a picture of me in his news feed, where it has like people you might know or
Right.
along
Right.
those. And it was in his news feed, and he clicked on it, and it turned out I was a bass player, and he was looking for a bass player, and I think it was mainly just on looks. And so he sent me a message, private message on Facebook, said, "Hey, this is Aldo Nova. Would you be interested in playing?" And I'm like, yeah, I'm thinking, yeah, right. This is, but so I looked at it and I said, yeah, I guess, yeah, this is Aldo Nova. And so I forget how we made conversation, but I said, yeah, well, what's going on? I'd love to play with you. And
Yeah.
he wanted me to send him demos or stuff of me playing. So I sent him some YouTube videos, and I sent him my album. And so as things came about, that was in 2018.
Okay.
Probably around September, October. In January of 2019, he flew me up to Canada, to Montreal, to do a video for one of the songs. I'm a Survivor.
Right.
Just for a second.
Yeah,
So
that's okay.
I'm a Survivor is an excellent song. And so he had me in the video I didn't play on it, obviously, but he had me play on the video, as part of the backing band. And so that we just remained talking, and we did stuff together. Since COVID, we had planned on touring. And then COVID kind of shut everything down and shut the border down. So we started doing, he started doing these videos, these COVID videos.
Right. Yeah.
Redoing songs that he had recorded previously, and we do it as a live band. So we'd record right here in my studio. I record the bass tracks, and then he'd have all the other tracks arranged and whatever, and we'd set up a camera, and we do like these home videos.
Yeah.
With a live band, and so
wow.
He had asked if I'd be interested in playing on a song, and sent me the stuff, and I laid down the tracks, and he thought it was great. He decided he wants to put it on his album, I guess. So, but I mean, for the most part, everything that I had done with Aldo had either been the video, or we've been doing these COVID videos. And then this year has just been crazy, and I wasn't able to commit to doing anything. I can't be in quarantine,
right,
at the border and stuff like that, because
kind of give me kind of a layout of a schedule that, like, we kind of discussed this before, but I just want to make sure that, if you want to mention it, like, if you were to go up and do, like, if you went up there to work on something, you would be up there for how long? Maybe 2 days or?
Well, yeah. So if we were going to do some video work, it would be a couple of days, weekend or whatever, but I'd have to be in quarantine for 10 days to 2 weeks. Just because that's the way they're rolling right now. So, everything that he had planned, last summer, we had planned on doing a tour. And everything just kind of fell apart because of COVID. So this year, I don't have the time. There's too much going on within the family that I couldn't make the commitment. So I let him know earlier this year that I just wouldn't be able to continue.
Yeah, like this is one of the photos you have on your website.
Yeah. So that's his original drummer, Billy, was Aldo, and then Michelle or Michael, they're all French. So anyways, so that was the band that played in the video.
Wow. Okay. And that was this here, right?
There again, yeah. So same shot, big huge stage, cool. Great lighting, and he's a class act. He really goes all out, and nobody's doing videos like that. Everybody's like in a room, you know, and he goes out
Yeah.
and does this huge production video, which is awesome.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, I'm eager. I've always been eager to talk to him at some point. So maybe I'll have to see if you can
Yeah,
talk to him.
I'll
We
see
can
if I can hook you
talk
up.
to that, and I'd love to. I'd have you on the show.
Yeah.
Because that's what it's all about, sharing. Um, so yeah, so that's pretty cool. I mean, I followed him. You know, of course, I was in on the first record. You know, in 1981, he did the video for Fantasy, and then
Mhm.
you know, when the Subject Aldo Nova came out, I was totally in on that. And when Blood on the Bricks came out, I got a cool single of that from the guy at the record company. In the
Yeah.
meantime, you know, he had done the song with Blue Oyster Cult and, you know, Take Me Away on their The Revolution by Night album. It's such good stuff. So,
Yeah.
but the people he's worked with too is amazing. I mean, if you guys
Oh my
get
God.
out there on Tim's website, and it's got everything discography. It does say incomplete list on it, so there could be some other things, right?
There's
But
other things I don't add or I forget or like
gotcha.
I'm going through my collection back there and going, oh yeah, I played on that. And I pull it out. But
I kind of flipped out when I saw that you played fretless bass for Tourniquet
yeah.
on
So
Crawl to China. You did
yeah.
a song on there.
So I had been playing in the '90s, pretty much exclusively just fretless bass, and
Wow.
I I had done something with them. Can't remember what it was off the top of my head, but they had heard me play fretless, and uh, Ted had asked if I would be interested in playing like a jazz thing, and
Yeah.
kind of like a Sinatra kind of big band
Wow.
kind of bass part. And Luke would be, it would just be me and the drums, and then Luke would be singing uh, over the bass track. So I did, and
Wow.
and recorded it, and came out pretty cool. And
Yeah.
then
That's wild.
it goes from jazz bass into this heavy metal kind of riff after that. So it's kind of like a
Yeah.
little intro of jazz, and then it goes into heavy metal.
I'll have to check. I got to check that out. Yeah, there's everything on here. I mean, there's a whole bunch of stuff. The Sin Dizzy stuff that you did with Oz, the Irene Kelly, Deborah Vaughn, all the way to Liberty and Justice stuff that you worked with, Des Dickerson. But yeah, get out there on Tim's website and check some of these out. And then it's got all your video stuff too. A good listing of all your video stuff.
Yeah.
Oh, look at that. Yeah. So you did. So here, let's kind of finish this Aldo Nova thought. You were on the video for I'm a Survivor. There's Monkey on Your Back. Love
Yeah.
that
So
from Subject.
these are all the COVID versions that
Yeah.
we've done.
When All Is Said and Done.
Mhm.
Blood on the Bricks, which is a great song, co-written by John Bon Jovi, right?
Yeah.
And Modern World. So, yeah,
Yeah.
that's pretty cool.
I rehearsed. It drives me nuts because it would have been a great tour. I was all excited. I rehearsed and practiced.
I bet.
He sent us, everybody sent like the whole concert. He is very meticulous as far as everything is arranged. I mean, he had the whole show already in his mind and arranged how each song is going to transition into the next. And
Yeah.
well, I'm rehearsing the whole set, you know, and all these songs, and it's like, dang, it just didn't happen. Didn't happen. So
That's a heartbreaker, man. That is
maybe one day in the future, you know, if the opportunity happens again, you know, we'll see.
Yeah.
But
because I'd certainly love I'd love to have some new Aldo material. I would.
yeah, well, the Life and Times of Eddie Gage is pretty darn cool. It's
Yeah. And is it available? I mean,
you know, I don't know what's going on.
Yeah. Okay. That's cool.
I mean, but you know, last I heard, he was going to release it either the end of last year or maybe sometime this year. I don't know.
Yeah, because there's a cover art and everything out there whenever you see some of the videos and stuff like that. So, but that would be cool. Well, brother, I think I'll let you get going at that. I'm going to double check this though. We did have a last few things coming in. Hello from Puerto Rico.
Puerto Rico, Rag Rocks. Good to see you, the true fans. Man. Yeah, thank you, brother. Yeah. I love Puerto Rico too. Miss you guys.
Yeah. Any memories from the wild Striper concerts in the 80s in Puerto Rico? I was there.
Yeah. The first one at the baseball, the San Ramon, the big baseball stadium was. It's like I guess like the week before they had a hurricane come through, and so we were like going, are we going to be able to play? And so it was up in the air, but we got there, and this baseball stadium was packed out with people. It's like huge. I mean, thousands everywhere you look. There's thousands of people. They're building human pyramids and just. It's like my first time in Puerto Rico, and these people are just nuts. They're crazy. Great.
Oh man, is there something that you're a collector of that's not music related? Well, I know the one thing we didn't talk about was the workout that I got helping you move into the truck.
Oh, the radio
to go. Yes.
Yeah, I collect old radios, antique radios. I'm a ham radio operator, so I'm just a geek.
Yeah,
not a geek, but I collect old radios, and I collect books, antique books.
Oh, is that right?
Yeah, and and albums.
Go ahead. And what do you get?
Albums. I collect albums and just whatever. I go through phases where I'm into certain things, and then I put them in a box and start with the next. But
I know how that is. I think a lot of us know how that is.
Yeah.
Yeah, but Christine picked up some when we were in Evanston recently by Chicago there. We went into a store that has vinyl, DVDs, books, all kinds of stuff. So this is kind of a playground for me. I was loving it. But she found some classic old books, like Wizard of Oz,
Sure.
And some of these are early printings and stuff like that. So so that stands for that. And then also we went to some other record stores, and my son made me proud the other day. He just picked up Queen Night at the Opera. So I said, well, you've got a better copy than I do, because mine is like a Mexican reprint that I bought cheap. I didn't buy it when it first came out, but I bought it. I mean, my copy is 30 years old or more, more, whatever. And but it's not as good as his.
That's like some Beatle albums I have that were like made by like K-Tel, not K-Tel, but like a label called Pickwick.
Yeah.
I've got albums in my collection that are just like on weird labels, and I got Beatle 45s on Swan and Atco and
wow,
cool things like that. So I like to collect albums. I like old books, really just old biblical kind of commentaries. I collect old Bibles from Civil War era.
Yeah.
I've got Torah scrolls from fragments from the mid 1500s. Just interesting things that nobody really cares about but me. I mean, I like old books, and I like to read. Like some of the, I got. If I just pull something like this off the shelf, this is like Cambridge Bible commentary. See it. This is from like 1895 or somewhere in there, and it's got the original owner's name stamped on. So like, when I get these things, and I think some of these guys, most of these guys on these old books are old pastors. Usually they're from England. So this one's from 1887. But you see their handwritten notes from when they were going through seminary and And I'm just like, man, these guys are already, long gone, and their great grandkids are probably, still alive. But stuff like this. I've got all this stuff. I just find it fascinating. I think I got that from my dad because my dad collected. He had a huge library, and he
Yeah.
collected old books and fossils and just all kinds of weird stuff like that.
Wow. And it's something that is of a time that is everything that we do now, I mean, is born from that time.
Yeah.
So I always say, what's going on with the English language right now? I mean, what's happening with grammar? What's happening with punctuations that don't exist anymore just because people don't do them? Or
Yeah.
I'm reading something, I'm like,
Oh
well,
well.
that.
I mean,
Oh, LOL.
it's
Oh
like
my God.
a whole new language with that's coming
Oh,
out with texting.
yeah, that's one of my least favorites. People do it and I don't get on them about it, but it is a huge pet peeve of mine. And I'll tell you why. I was getting ready to do a gig and we needed a replacement guitar player. The guitar player that the front man came up with didn't even end up doing the gig, but he put in a message to the band. He goes, well, I work here and I do this and I'm not even sure if I have the day off. LOL.
Yeah.
I'm like, this isn't a joke.
It's not funny.
This isn't funny. I don't know what you're laughing about, but I know where you can put that.
Yeah.
And a big thank you. Wow, this is all I see is Chihuahua. Chihuahua, Mexico. But I get thank you.
You're welcome. Thank you. Gracias.
There you go.
For sharing.
Thanks, Timothy, for sharing essence.
Awesome.
That's
I
awesome.
hope to be there someday again.
Absolutely. Yeah, my mom went to South America. I never did. Somebody just mentioned too, oddly enough, I think it's so interesting when our guests over there chime in about something that was my last question, actually. And I was actually going to ask you about a book. I mean, do you ever read other musician books, bios and stuff?
Do
you?
The other half of my room is all autobiographies
that's cool.
Everybody from the Stones, Keith Richards to I don't know, you name it.
Sinatra,
Chuck Negron from Three Dog Night.
Yep. Yeah.
I mean, it's just
Yeah, that's cool. Yeah, I got kind of a collection that's over here. I just got the Bruce Dickinson one. Mm-hmm. I'm eager to rate one that you might really enjoy. I don't know if you know of this one, The Speed of Sound by Thomas Dolby. You might get a kick out of that, being an electronics kind of a guy, of course, because he really pioneered a lot of really interesting electronics and stuff, and spent some time with Eddie Van Halen. That's one of my favorite posts that came out after Eddie died, was his time that he spent, the 5 things he remembers from his weekend with Eddie Van Halen.
Wow. Very cool.
Yeah, and I got the Scott Ian book recently, and of course the KK Downing book came out recently, and I got that. And but I've got a bunch of stuff to read, everything from Goldie Hawn to Rob Halford.
Yeah, Shirley Jones.
Yes.
I just read that one not too long ago.
Yes.
That was one. But I still have a bunch that so when Borders was going out of business, we pulled in somewhere, I can't remember, somewhere in the Midwest, and there was a Borders Books and Music going out of business, and they had all their biographies on sale for like $1. So
Shut up.
I loaded up a suitcase just full of books and brought them home.
So did they have that behind the counter, sir? Would you like a bag or a suitcase?
Yeah, no, we had the bus because we pull into a town. And
right.
What are you gonna do? Let's go to a mall. So it's like we get off the bus and do some shopping, but I happen to have a suitcase right there, so I loaded it. That's
hilarious.
Yeah,
that is hilarious. A suitcase of lives, right?
Yeah.
So are you working on one yourself?
I had been. I think I'm gonna just kind of put it on hold, and I may rewrite. I don't, when it was all said and done, I just kind of it left me with a bad taste in my mouth of
Interesting.
I don't want to portray my life as an angry person. And so I just,
Hmm.
you know, I've moved
Yeah.
beyond that. And, I don't think that my life's that important anymore, to write about. So it's like, I might, again, I may put it in production number two and see
Yeah.
if I can get something
I,
else.
I know that I don't remember who it was I was reading about recently, but somebody had been doing some reflecting on the book that they had done.
Yeah.
And they were like, I really didn't need to do all of that, you know?
Yeah. I mean, I want to represent Christ, and I don't want to represent in the wrong way. And I think a lot of what I had put into it would have been a reflection on where I was maybe 5 years ago.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, you put that out there, and it's going to be out there forever. Yeah.
Yeah. And not only that,
On
it's
the
tough.
internet, put stuff on the internet, it's there forever.
Right.
You can't
Right.
change it.
And it's tough when you're trying to please everybody. That's always a hard thing to do. But some people are looking for this, some people are looking for that. Somebody could watch the Tom. Here's my example. Somebody could be watching that Tom Petty movie that came out about his life,
Right.
and you could watch it and go, what an amazing movie.
Mhm.
And I'm like, well, yeah, but because of one little thing, I'll look at it and go, yeah, I don't know. It was okay. I mean, they didn't talk at all about FM.
Mhm.
And I'm like, and I realize it's probably because he had a lot of legal issues with the MCA and with the company and all that stuff. So there was lots of bad blood flowing during those times. And when you get so many years, decades past it, and you're like, I don't even want to talk about it. But at the same time, I'm that geek. I'm that
You want
person
to
out
know.
there dying to hear about that one facet
Yeah.
of their life that affected me,
Yeah.
and they gloss right over it and don't even mention it.
Yeah.
Because you're already, it's like that part of the trip. Oh, we always stop there, we always get something to eat there. Not this time. And you're like, well, now it's not even like the real trip.
Yeah.
You're like, I was already, because here comes the year, here it comes, and you didn't even talk about it. Okay.
Yeah.
So
So, I,
it's
I, I, I probably, I mean, a lot of it's written down and pretty much ready to go. It's just,
mhm.
I want to,
How you want to present it, right?
yeah. I mean, how's it going to make me look? I won't be around
Right.
forever. But that book might be later on, and people are,
Right.
yeah, I don't want to lead people to believe um, things that how I was, or things
Right.
represented as being negative. So
Well, yeah,
we need
nobody
to write
wants.
a book.
Yeah. And so many people are revising their books. I mean, they're,
Yeah.
they're coming out with a new version of it and things. And Born Distracted, you're right. I should write my own book. I thought about it at one point. I think if I ever wrote a book about my life and the things I've been through, I'd probably just make it a piece of fiction that would be like real fiction. It'd be can you do that? Autobiographical fiction? Can you do
Possibly.
that?
Well, you could do anything.
So, yeah, because I mean, I don't know. I've
2021, you can
done
do
some.
whatever you want.
Yeah, I've had some crazy adventures. Well, you would be in the book, so you know. And then lastly here, what new musical projects are you thinking about in the next years? Anything right off the bat now, or has you got plenty of other things in the midst?
What am I thinking? Gosh, I'm just looking for anything to happen. I mean, they're just barely
Yeah.
opening. I don't think a lot of people realize the toll that COVID took on the entertainment music industry in general. I mean, as not just bands off the road, but I mean, there's nothing going
Yeah.
on. So, I mean, and that's not just bands, but it's like the crew guys, people
Yeah.
in the theaters, or
Yeah.
stagehands. I mean, everybody has been devastated by being off
Yeah.
the road. And
Yeah.
so, I mean, there's a few bands that are finally getting out, and Lollapalooza, just
Mhm.
so we're starting to see it open up again.
Yeah.
And so, I don't have a
Yeah.
band right now. I'm I'm looking to do something, or I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't know what the future holds. I can't really say what I'm going to do next week. So,
Well, maybe that's where I need to start. Maybe Hammer Away needs to branch out into putting people together, you know,
yeah, yeah,
instead of
you know,
everybody wondering what they're going to do. Just go, you know what, you and you and you and you.
I'm at
Let's.
the point where I want to play something for me,
Mm-hmm.
music that I like,
Mm-hmm.
as opposed to rehashing 80s. Um,
Right.
it's like 80s were great, but this is 2021. This is
Yeah, they
40,
have their place.
40 years later, and
Mm-hmm.
um, I want to play something that I like, and
Yeah.
whatever that is, I don't know because it changes all the time.
And yeah. Well, I think there's a lot of people out there that are making some great music that is good and influenced by certain genres and certain places in time.
Yeah,
You know, um,
I get a lot of stuff. Okay, so what I do on the side here to actually try to make money through all this is record. I lay down bass tracks for people's demos or albums or whatever.
yeah,
So that's what I do, and I turn down some stuff because everybody thinks I'm a heavy metal guy, and it's like I get this hardcore metal. It's like I'm not. I'll play on it, but I mean I'm probably not the guy to play heavy metal or hardcore stuff.
right.
I grew up playing jazz. I mean, I've
It's
had
not
jazz influence of
right.
different styles of music. I grew up on 60s and 70s pop music. So I wasn't really the metal guy. Um, I play hard rock. I'm a rock bass player, but
Yeah,
um, I think a lot of people
yeah,
think that because Striper is somewhat heavy metal. I mean, there's some hard rock stuff. I don't think Striper is a metal band at all. I think it's a good rock band, hard rock at times, and some good ballads. And
yeah.
but I wasn't really the metal guy. Um,
Interesting.
I liked other styles of music,
Yeah.
and they're fun
Well,
to play. I mean, as a bass player, it's not if you're just laying down. Doubling up on the rhythm guitar tracks, it's like that's kind of boring. I'm
right.
more of a melodic player. I like to play different things. I like to, yeah, playing with, excuse me, playing with an acoustic guitar player is so much different for a bass player than playing electric. Where you're just.
Yep.
Um, anyway, so
Yeah.
that's kind of where I'm at. I really don't know what the future holds. If at my age, I'm getting up there. I'll be 60 next year, so it's like, what? I don't want to reinvent myself. I don't know what the industry is going to do. I don't know. There's so much uncertainty right now with what's going on in
Yeah.
the world that it's really hard to say. But
Yeah.
I've also been one to trust God that He's going to lead me in whatever direction, and
Yeah.
wherever that ends up, it's in God's will. I'm there.
Yeah. Well, if there's the one word that I've always thrown out to people, and I've said it on the show before, is that word contentment.
Mm-hmm.
If we find a place of contentment, things tend to just drift in like a nice wave. It just seems to, to come in. It's not a crashing, crushing wave. It's just this nice, even lapping of the water to when you need an opportunity, here it comes. If you stay content in where you are. I was trying to tell my students that during the pandemic, when they were at home and complaining about having to look at a computer screen.
Yeah.
I said, well, find contentment, because you'll be crabbing and moaning when you're back in school. So
Yeah.
enjoy it while you can. Just be content where you are and know that it's pretty nice to be home. So, but But yeah, what's this last one? You could play baseball, nature sounds playing in the background. It's a thought.
Yeah. I live right up against. I'm in the desert, obviously at Phoenix, but I'm
Yes.
against a nature park area. So it's
Oh,
like,
I got you, like a reserve area.
yeah, I've got mountains all around me, and at night you hear coyotes and the birds. You hear all the different wild birds. We got quail running around in the daytime, and it's pretty neat.
You could have an album called Quailings, and you could
get
or at least a track called Quailings.
Yeah.
Man.
Song to Christopher Cross's Sailings.
Yes. Someday when we're hanging out, I'll tell you about that song. It's an embarrassing moment about that song. Only to me. It's just silly. Anyway.
Right.
Well, hey, thank you very much for everything that we've gotten to share tonight. I mean,
awesome. I'm glad to hang out for a little bit here. It's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. I love it. So thank you for sharing all that stuff, for the reflections and everything. Thank you to everybody who's been chiming in over there tonight.
Guys,
that's brilliant to have great things to say.
Well, the guy says, "Born Distracted." How about a picture book? That's another.
That would be my life book.
One of my hobbies was photography, and I've got over the years. In fact, I was just thinking about that yesterday. I'm going, well, what if I did like a picture book? But I don't know.
Yeah, like Niels Lozauer is doing. He's working on multiple versions of different books like that.
Yeah.
And I mean, I was just talking to him the other day. Did you ever work with Neil? Did you ever meet up with him?
Yeah. He's done a lot of stuff with Stryper back in the day. So
that's cool. Quite a quite a character he is. He's got that new movie that's it's not new anymore, 2018, but you can watch it on YouTube. They've got it out there, In Your Face. And the Niels Lozauer story.
I'll check it out.
Yeah, do. It's a lot of fun. It's a hoot. I talked to him. Hopefully he's going to be on the show a little later this year. So
awesome.
Yeah, we had a good talk, so it's kind of fun. Well, thanks again to everybody. Everybody's saying thank you over here and peace, and it's wonderful. Thanks for sharing your faith too. Appreciate those words as well. And then we will be talking sometime soon. To everybody else, remember, when you walk out your door every day, you're in everybody else's world. They're not in yours. So just be cool to each other and know the boundaries, man. Work together. Make the day good for that person who's next to you. Because if you make that neighbor's day, it's awesome. In the meantime, keep rocking. Foo Fighters are in town tonight. What's my show next week? Next week, we have the Midnight Devils. They're out of the Midwest area here, a little farther north, and they'll be rocking us then. And then after that, we've got the Great Affairs. So they'll be the next Tuesday. So enjoy it. Thank you again, Tim. This has been a blast.
Thank you. All right, Stu.
Take it easy, folks.
All right,
rock it.